folks! Welcome to another sophisticated art talk video. It gives me a chance to wear my sophisticated clothes. In this video, we're going to do an artist reaction to a video posted by Rae Dizzle. If you don't know who she is a wonderful artist on YouTube, and also she's very entertaining. Check her out, check her channel out, please. And she posted a video where she had some art opinions, and unpopular art opinions. And I have art opinions. I'm sure you have art opinions. Art is nothing but opinions, so let's see what she has to say.
Let me go ahead and just get comfy because this is going to be a long video, a lot of talking in this video. Even the dog is getting comfy right now.
The cat's got comfy here too, so yes, get comfy.
If you've clicked on this video, you're probably wondering why it's from my channel. If you've been subscribed to me for a long time, you're probably very confused.
That's how I feel usually when I'm going to post something that has nothing to do with what I've done previously. Like in one video I make a video about a power tool, the next video is something about violins, the next one is ancient Egypt, the next one I'm reacting to somebody. This must really be really confusing to the viewers that expect consistency in the channel. I'm sorry, there is no consistency, this is just madness here.
And if you're new to my channel, I usually don't do videos like this. The type of videos that I usually make, the bread and butter of this channel, are usually art hack videos where I test out really ridiculous art hacks.
So here we go.
I do art historical videos where I test out really old art supplies. I test out really weird and expensive and unique art supplies that you've probably never heard of. But for today's video, I want to get more personal with you guys. I want to show you who Rae Dizzle, the artist, is. I know for me personally, whenever I watch YouTube, I really enjoy hearing other people's opinions, hearing people's takes on things. I love learning.
I wonder if she's going to see this video. Somebody show it to Rae. If any of her fans see this, show it to her.
Learning, getting new perspectives. I may or may not love getting a little tea.
I don't have tea today, but I have some mocha.
I've been wanting to make this video for a while. I just haven't been brave enough, I guess. But yeah, today for the first time on my channel, I am going to share my unpopular art opinions. And before this video begins, if you have an unpopular opinion, put it in the comments down below. I will be responding to a lot. Okay, I got my list ready. First unpopular opinion. Copic markers are not the end-all, be-all perfect marker. We're starting off hot. Are Copic markers one of the best art supplies? Absolutely, yes. I 100% agree with that sentiment. But I don't think in a lot of scenarios that they're the end-all, be-all marker choice for everybody.
No, they are not. Copics are very expensive. They are very high quality markers. They're very expensive markers. I personally, I'm a Prismacolor person. Prismacolor is not a sponsor, but if they want to be, drop me a note.
Copic markers are very, very expensive, and anybody who's ever worked with alcohol-based markers knows that it adds up very quickly.
This here is a small fortune in Prismacolor markers. This was not this was achieved over years. This is not but overnight. But yeah, this is an investment here. Smart people invest in gold and bonds and stocks and whatever. Artists invest in markers.
Each individual marker can range anywhere from like $6 all the way up to $8. And when I say they're not perfect for everybody in every situation, I'll give an example. I know for myself and a lot of other illustrators out there, when you do illustrations, there is a lot of color blocking involved. And I'll show some examples of just like a pure solid block. And in that scenario, if you're just going to be doing like a solid application of one color, you don't need to mix, you don't need to blend, you just need a solid line. When it comes to drawing techniques like that, I personally would reach for a much cheaper marker.
That is absolutely correct. Depending on what you're drawing and you're filling in with the markers, sometimes you have to just have this one color background. And things that the high price markers, the Copics and the Prismacolors, they excel at is blending colors. It's another crazy techniques that people can do with the markers. And the cheaper ones, they're not very good at it. But if you just need a solid background or a solid color that doesn't have anything special to it, a cheaper marker is a good option. Yes, that's a great idea for her.
For me personally, I'm going to get the exact result that I need, which is a solid blank of color, but I'm not using my $8 marker, my whole paycheck. So in my opinion,
right.
Are Copics amazing? Yes, 100% we stand, but are they the perfect marker for every single scenario for everybody? I'm gonna have to say, in my opinion, I don't think so. My next unpopular opinion.
And I prefer Prismacolor.
My next unpopular opinion, if you are an artist, you don't have to pursue art as a career. A lot of us growing up who had talents or natural inclinations to things, like for example, if you're good at sports, what is the first thing you hear growing up? Oh, you should get into football. Or if you're good at dancing, oh, you should get into ballet. And of course, if you're good at drawing, what is the first thing people always say? Oh, you should become an artist.
Just because you're good at something doesn't necessarily mean you should pursue it as a career, or that you're going to have success in it.
Or you'll hear another compliment of, with your talent, you can make a lot of money.
No. There's a lot of, I'm sorry, but the sad reality of art world and of many other professions out there, but there's a lot of luck involved on whether you become popular or you become rich as an artist. Skill helps, yes, but a lot of luck is involved, and a lot of other factors that often have nothing to do with art itself. Yes, hard work helps and talent helps, but there's a lot of luck involved with art.
Another one that I've heard many times is, they're such a good artist, it's a shame they never pursued it any further. And I understand the sentiments behind those, but hear me out.
Just because somebody's good at something, it doesn't necessarily mean that they should dedicate themselves to it. You can do this as a hobby, you can do it just because it brings you pleasure. You don't have to make a career out of it. You don't have to make your living just because you're good at it.
I've ran into artists who, if they wanted to, they could probably become the next Pablo Picasso. But a lot of artists don't want that lifestyle. They hold their artwork and their whole entire process so near and dear to their heart, they don't care if it gets sold in a gallery for $1 million. They don't care if
I would like if some of my stuff got sold in a gallery for $1 million. At that point, artistic integrity is out of the window. It's like $1 million? Sure, bring it on.
1 million people buy their artwork or see their artwork. They just like doing it because they like doing it. And I don't think that that should be considered a waste of talent. Some people...
Yes, absolutely. It's not a waste of talent just because they don't want to do it.
Some people's personalities, they would rather have like the stability of a 9-to-5 job and come home and do artwork for fun. Being a self-employed artist is very, very tough. It doesn't come with a lot of traditional stability that you would find with a 9-to-5 job. Being a self-employed artist or musician or whatever, it really can add a lot of anxiety, pressure, am I good enough, art block, and a lot of people don't want to mix their creative life with their work life.
She is absolutely correct. It is notably more difficult than a structured job that society has to offer to you.
If somebody chooses to do that route, I respect it, and even in some ways I envy it. I asked on my Twitter what you guys thought was like the most controversial art opinion you guys had, and I saw this one quite a lot. In my opinion, paint pouring can require an immense amount of skill. Now, whenever you first hear the definition of paint pouring, it sounds very simplistic. You put paint in a cup and you pour it over canvas. And you'll see lots of YouTube channels that are dedicated to the artwork. You'll see them sold for lots of money. If you were to boil down to just the bones of paint pouring, it seems that anyone essentially could, in theory, do it. But in my opinion, I definitely think that it ranges. The best way that I can put it is like cooking.
Yes, paint pouring, in my opinion, it's like pretty much any craft that you pursue. At the highest levels, it requires a lot more skill. At the lowest levels, you might just get lucky. So, any craft at the highest level is a lot of work. It requires a lot of skill, it requires talent, it requires dedication, time, patience, etc. At the lowest levels, you might just mix some colors together and pour it, and the thing with art is it's subjective, and the objective of it is to please you aesthetically. So you put this paint together and you pour it on a canvas and it comes out this beautiful pattern. You might have no idea what you're doing, but you got something that came out beautiful.
Everybody essentially can go and make a grilled cheese, but not everybody can create like a Gordon Ramsay style 5-star meal.
I can't cook. I suck at cooking.
Requires lots of time, patience, understanding, and I feel like it's the exact same thing with paint pouring. Around January of this year, I did what I thought was going to be a super easy video, which was the weirdest paint pouring techniques out there. I thought you just pour paint in a canvas and dump it and that's it. But quickly I learned when I started to film that video, paint pouring is so difficult. Especially for like the more advanced techniques, you have to understand like the fluidity and motion of the paint. You have to understand color theory and how they're all gonna melt together. Upper level paint pouring, in my opinion, is so difficult and requires so much time, patience, and understanding. Doing that video where I tested out paint pouring changed my whole entire perspective completely.
like I said, any craft at the highest level requires more skill, more dedication, more mojo than if you're doing it casually or at a lower level, where luck plays a much bigger role whether you make something pleasing or not.
Alright, what do we got next? Ooh, for this next one, I definitely know I might be ruffling some feathers with this one. My opinion is that I believe photorealism is art.
Who said photorealism is not art? Do you think photorealism is not art?
Now, before I even get into this topic, I just want to say art is 100% completely subjective. That's the cool thing about artwork, is that every single person can feel completely different about one singular thing. When you look at the definition of art, primarily the sentence I want to focus on is producing works to be appreciated primarily for their beauty or emotional power. When it comes to realism, I think it is the simplest and easiest way to show off your skill and beauty with artwork. When I was a little kid, me and my dad used to go to a museum in my local town, and as a little kid, I had no concept of modern art and what it meant. There was one artwork specifically. It was like a black circle made out of wax. And as a little kid, I had zero concept of the meaning behind it, the emotional power behind it, the work involved in creating it. I had no idea. But what I did comprehend was the extremely photorealistic paintings, and that includes realism taken directly from a reference.
It's interesting to think about it that realism is the easiest form of art for you to look at it and understand what you're seeing, but it's, in my opinion, one of the hardest to make, and abstract art is usually the most difficult to understand what you're looking at, but it might be arguably the simplest to make.
So when it does come down to the definition of art, for me personally, it definitely hits the requirements of skill and to be appreciated for their beauty, and of course, in my case as a little kid, it's emotional power. So yeah, I definitely feel that photorealism is one of the easiest artworks to understand, be appreciated by the masses. For me personally, realism definitely was the gateway drug into artwork. But
for me too, I could say, because I grew up looking at the works of the great masters of the Renaissance and the 1800s, where they had realism was a really big thing. So, yeah.
But on the flip side, I completely understand the argument of there's no imagination when it comes to photorealism.
What? No. I'm sorry, Ray, I have to disagree. I cannot understand the argument that there's no imagination.
Imagination.
Art is not necessarily about imagination. Art is creating something that is aesthetically pleasing. That's it. Imagination.
I completely understand both points, but in my heart, I hold a very special place for photorealism, and I do consider it artwork. Before we get to the absolute huge one that I think was causing a major war on my Twitter, as a pretense, I'm gonna go with a lighter one. And that's the opinion that microns are overrated. If you don't know what microns are, they're a very popular fine liner, and I would say they're pretty much a staple in the art community. And
I agree with her, microns are overrated. Much cheaper is Zig, Millennium, and I actually like the Copic fine liners.
And I'm not gonna lie, they are good pens. I'm definitely gonna sound like such an old lady, but 10-15 years ago, it was much harder to find like specialty art supplies. I mean, back before the internet had everything available right off the bat, it was quite hard to find. And therefore, your selection was much lower back in the day. And so, back in the day...
I'm sorry, Ray, you sound like an old lady. I'm going to sound like a mummy. Back in the day, we had mechanical pens or fountain pens that had the ultra-fine point, but you needed to know how to fill them up and you needed to know how to clean them up. So back in the day, we had art supplies, but thankfully these things showed up and made life a lot easier.
Microns definitely were the end-all be-all of fine liners. But now in modern day, it's so easy to find a good fine liner, no problem. You can get them on Wish and AliExpress. Even Walmart sells some very decent fine liners. Now, I do have to say that microns are archival, meaning that the ink will last a very long time. Unless you're very focused on archival work, I definitely feel that you can get a better set of fine liner pens much cheaper other places, and they don't have to be the name brand Microns.
I agree with her.
And this leads us to probably the most controversial opinion of all. On Twitter, when I asked about what your guys' opinion was on it, probably like every third comment was regarding this. Let me take a breath. Modern art, I think, is very... I'm scared to say it. Okay, here we go. Modern art does take a lot of skill. Now, like I said, this video is opinions, not facts.
I'm gonna wait for her to say her opinions, but I have a lot of opinions on modern art, so let's see what she has to say.
What falls under the category of modern art are artists like Jackson Pollock and Mark Rothko. Now, when it comes to modern art, I definitely understand how easy it is to look at a painting and say, like, I could do that no problem. But when it comes to that type of modern art, there really is a lot of like symbolism behind it, a lot of tactfulness behind it, a lot of understanding of the artist's story, what they meant, just tons and tons of symbolism behind it. The best example that I could say is look at Pablo Picasso. He started off originally as a realistic artist, and one of the many reasons that he was held to such a high esteem, even though he could do and create realistic art, he completely rejected that form and moved on to a more abstract way of painting.
All right, so modern art does take a lot of skill to make. I think it's, my opinion is that it is a spectrum. You have one end where it takes no skill whatsoever, and you have another end where it does take skill. If we're talking about Jackson Pollock or Picasso, their artwork has a lot of thought put into it. It has a lot of work put into it. It has a lot of time that is spent into it, and they understand concepts that might not be immediately apparent when you look at the gargle mesh of stuff that they put on the canvas. But on the other side of the spectrum, there is one specific painting that I'm going to cite here, that is the Black Square by Kazimir Malevich. He is a painter from the early 1900s, and this painting is just a white canvas with a black square painted in it. And this is worth millions, of course, and it's regarded as incredibly important and pivotal in the modern art movement and blah 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 blah. The value of this painting is entirely on the historic context of it. Like she said, a lot of stuff has to do with the historic context and the social context of what was going on at the time and why this was made like that and what the artist wanted to express. But as far as technique goes, it's a canvas of white paint and a black square painted on it. It takes the most basic skill in draftsmanship to do that. You just have to be able to do a black square, nothing more. So in this case, no, it takes no skill whatsoever. Now, if you put the associated symbolism, you can start explaining the paint this, the paint that, and now they found out that there was something painted underneath the black paint, and then he painted over, and yeah, I don't buy that kind of stuff. For me, art has to be a little bit more obvious, the interpretation. It can't be too symbolic, because that will get lost in time. Nobody will understand what you're trying to sell.
Even now, in modern day, when you walk into a contemporary art museum, there's usually a thing called an artist statement, where it explains what you're looking at, what it means, what the artist was trying to create. And that's the cool thing about artwork, is that it has no rules, and the rules that it does have are made to be broken. And that's how artwork and new ideas are made, is from other artists past, rejecting old ideas, trying new things. And when you factor in the symbolism, the story behind it, the meaning behind it, I do think you can get a lot of enjoyment from contemporary and abstract artwork.
Again, like I said, in my personal opinion, that's a spectrum, and there is art that is complex to make, that takes the actual skill to make, that is just a bunch of stuff on the canvas. It doesn't really have an obvious idea, and there is art that is just a black square on a white canvas that takes absolutely no skill to do it. So yes, that is my unpopular opinion on modern art. Let me know in the comments if you have a different opinion.
So anyway, that was a lot of talking. I know you guys only saw however long this video is, but I talked so much that my throat at one point just gave up.
I was talking all day, and then I got home and I saw she posted this video. I was like, I must do a reaction to this video, so my throat is also giving out.
And with that being said, that is some of my unpopular art opinion. If you have an unpopular opinion, I would love to hear it. I would love to respond to it. I will definitely be in the comments down below. If you would like to see part 2 of this, please let me know. If you haven't subbed with notifications, please be sure to do that. And yeah, with that being said, I hope you have a good day, and I will see you next video. Bye.
So yes, that was Rae's unpopular art opinions. I didn't think they were too inflammatory, and I do agree with some of the things she said. I disagree with some of the things she said, and that's the beautiful thing about art. It's about opinions. So let us know your opinions in the comment below. Check Rae's channel and subscribe to her, subscribe to us, and let us know if you like this video, if you dislike this video. And thank you so much for watching. I'll see you next time.